Hello everyone, I'm Arunima from Knit and Otter, and in this video I'm going to show you how to embroider on Tunisian crochet. So I have this swatch that I created. It is 15 stitches by 11 rows, and I'm going to embroider a design on this swatch. So for this video I'm going to start with a mistake that I made, and which I realized very late and I didn't have the time to fix it, so I'll talk about that quickly. So I made this swatch with 15 stitches. So if you see, I have 15 stitches here, and that makes 14 columns. And because of that, I wanted to make a diamond pattern, but I ended up with even number of columns, and I didn't have a center column, so to speak. So I have 2 columns at the center. So for any patterns there where you need a single stitch in this row, in a row, which has to be centralized, then you need to have even number of stitches so you get odd number of columns. So right now I have 15 stitches, which when I started working with this, I thought that was right. I was doing the math right, because I had 15 stitches. I would have a center which would be an odd number, and I would be able to make a complete diamond, but that didn't work out. So now I have my swatch, and I modified the design to match my swatch because I don't have the time to redo this. I really wanted to make this video today. So the other thing is that I wasn't able to take a printout of the pattern itself because because of COVID, I didn't have access to a printer, so I made this. But I will include a printable PDF in on my blog, and you can find a link to that in the description below. So you can have, I'm going to include this, and I'm going to include a pattern for my Ansh blanket, where the sampler blanket where we are making different squares from different stitches. So this is one of those techniques that we're using there, and so I'm going to include these the pattern that I used for my blanket as well. So I'm gonna get started. So here now, if you look at my swatch, this is made up of Tunisian simple stitches. So let's quickly talk about stitches here. I picked Tunisian simple stitches because that's the traditional way of doing it. All the patterns that I've seen where there was embroidery done on Tunisian crochet were done on a simple stitch swatch and or a full project. And I think the reason for that is that this builds a very dense fabric, and it is easy to embroider over it. There are some stitches in Tunisian crochet which are loose, and I tried, and it wasn't as easy to embroider over them. So to start, I'm going to identify where I'm going to make my first stitch. So this swatch matches this exactly. I have 15 stitches. So here, what I've marked here is stitch number, and there might be charts, which I think the chart that I will create will mark the column numbers. I wanted to show you the stitches and rows in this, so that's why I marked it that way. But so this is between row 1 and row 2 is actually column 1. Between row 2 and row 3 is column 2. So there will be charts which indicate column number instead of stitch number, but this one is stitch number, so I could show you how it matches this swatch exactly. So the first stitch is here, this edge stitch, and the last stitch, that's the 15th stitch, is this edge, and every stitch in between is that vertical bar here is the vertical bar here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the seventh bar. So that's the first one is the edge. That's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7th. This is the 7th stitch, and the second row, and between the 7th and 8th stitch, that is where we're going to make the first cross stitch, and I'm going to mark that. So now we have our starting point, and I'm just going to start doing the embroidery. So we'll follow the chart as it is. I'm going to use, I threaded my needle, and you can use whatever needle you'd like, but a contrasting color is always nice for embroidering. So I'm going to turn this around at the back, and I start, so approximately where I have to begin, I start over there, and I sort of weave in my loose end before I start. And you have to be careful that when you're on the other side, your thread doesn't show up. So just pick stitches such that that thread doesn't show up in front. That, and then I just go back, and that ensures that this would not unravel. And if you look in the front, I cannot see that. So that was the aim. I'm close to where we marked this the stitch here, so I'm going to remove that. Now that I have this tucked in, I'm going to insert my needle here. I can see a little bit of a tail, but that's okay. That's the end of it. I can cut that if it looks odd in the end, but I think it'll be fine. So to the left and bottom is where you'd insert your needle and pull, and then the other side would be, so the 4 corners that we're going to use for our cross stitch would be this one, the one right next to the vertical bar, this one, again the one next to the vertical bar, and same on this side. So this one next to the vertical bar and this one next to the vertical bar. So we will be crossing over this one vertical bar here. So I'm going to cross over and insert my needle here. So that is one stitch, that is between 7 and 8, and now I'm going to make the one between 8 and 9. So I'm going to insert my hook here, insert the needle here, pull through, and now I'm going to the other side of the next vertical bar at the top here and there. So that's how it's looking. It is in the center, yeah, that's because of my mistake. But if you haven't watched the video since the beginning, just to reiterate, I made a swatch with 15 stitches, which left me with odd even number of columns in between, so I can't really centralize a single stitch. I need 2 stitches to make a pattern which would be symmetric. So to complete these cross stitches, I'm just going to insert that hook, the needle here. I keep saying hook. I'm so used to making tutorials with hooks. So here it's the needle goes here and then the needle goes there. So that makes the first stitch. That completes that cross of that cross stitch. And then here and we go here. So that's to this side right next to this vertical bar at the top. Okay, now we've made these 2 here, and now I'm going to make these 4. So I'm going to go 1 row up and 1 column left. So that's 1 row up and 1 column left. This is where I'm going to make the first cross stitch of that row. So just to show you, this is how it's looking in the back. It's nice and neat, and I aim to keep it that way for the rest of it as well. So I'm going to start over here. And the reason for that is because I want to go in the same direction as this one, as the first row. And insert the hook there. Insert the needle there. And then make 4 of these. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm going to complete that second pass so I can complete these stitches. It's interesting, this is like Tunisian crochet where I make the first pass and then I make the return pass, and to complete the stitches. That's pretty much what I'm doing here as well. There's that. Now that I have this 2 rows, I'm going to go ahead and make the rest of it really quick here. I'm going to increase the speed of this video so you don't have to see me do it in my natural speed. I'm just going to make it on camera and you can see how it goes. Now I've reached the point where I'm here, where I'm going to now start decreasing. So for that, instead of going one back, I'm going to go one forward and start my stitches from there. So here it is. This is how it's looking. It is, I find it very easy to do. You can create some very beautiful patterns with this. And again, I want to point out that if you want it to be, if you want a symmetric pattern with a single stitch in the center, then you need to make even number of stitches in your rows. And for this pattern, I had 15 stitches, and because of that I had 14 columns, and for that reason I had an even number of stitches in the center. So this is how it's looking, and this is how it is in the back. So I'll just go ahead and complete this to weave this in. And I always like to go at least 2 or 3 times back and forth, so to make sure that this doesn't fall apart. And cut. So there you go. That's all there is to do this, and so this is a simple stitch swatch, and I have separate tutorials for learning how to make this, and it's very straightforward. So I wanted to try one more thing, and I thought I'd include that in this tutorial. I saw somebody do embroidery in a slightly different way, so I'm going to quickly give that a shot here and see how it works up. I haven't tried it before, but I thought I'd include it in the tutorial in case somebody wanted to go that route. I thought it looks really pretty. It looked really pretty where I saw it, so let's just do it together here in this tutorial. So I have this swatch. It's the same. It's 15 stitches by 11 rows, and I'm not going to make this full diamond. I'm just going to make a smaller version to show you how it works up. So the difference between this one and this one will be that here we were making our cross stitches over the vertical bar so that they were connected to each other, but this person here had made them in between the vertical bars. So I'm going to give that a shot and we'll see how that goes. So again, I'm going to find that the 7th stitch, so that's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and after the 7th stitch, this is where I'm going to make my I'm going to start from here, the 4th row. So start by weaving that thread in, so I don't have to do it later. It's easy to just do it right now. If you're like me, you would you'd also not like weaving in end, so this is the good part about this, that you don't really have to do it in the end. You can do it as you're making it. So here, so that's row I wanted row 4, so that's 1 2 3 4. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to now make these stitches in between the 2 vertical bars. So I'm going to show you the 4 corners that we're going to use for this. So this is 1 and 2, and then instead of the same side on for the other one, I'm going to go in here on the other side. So here I'm going to insert my hook here, and then for the next stitch I'm going to bring it back up on this side. So if you see, I went in on this side and I came out here on this side. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a smaller diamond and we'll see how that looks. So now I'm going to, again, because I'm on this side, I'm going to insert my hook here and go in here. So basically not embroidering over the vertical bars, embroidering in between them. Everything else remains the same except for where that stitch, where you insert your needle. So that end is sticking out on the other side, and that took care of it. So here it is. This is how it's looking. Let me just quickly weave these ends. So here we go. So it is a little wonky. It's not very stitches are a little loose. I guess that's because there's no real anchor. These vertical bars are sort of the anchor for this one. This swatch isn't looking as pretty, I feel. This one is looking much better, but the person I saw who made theirs using this, it was a different pattern, but I thought it looked really nice. So maybe in a different yarn, but I can see how if this was a larger project, then you would focus less on the stitches and more on the pattern itself. This might look good, but I really like how this one turned out. So these are the 2 ways I thought I'd show you how to do this one also. It was a good experiment, I think. Let's quickly look at their back also. You can see how this one has little crosses here because we're going on different sides of those vertical bars, and this one is nice and neat. So you can pick whichever you'd like, and it's always good to see how different things work up. So you could even try it with different stitches. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a knit stitch swatch would be a good one to try with, but if you want to stick with the traditional way of doing it, then do it on a simple stitch swatch or make your project with simple stitches. So that's all there is for this tutorial. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I have a bunch of free tutorials on my channel and a bunch of free patterns on my website. I'm going to add a link to everything in the description below, so feel free to check everything out. I'll see you in my other tutorials. Bye bye.